So, you know, my story, I went back to school and finished my degree. So after I finished my degree, they say you get your bachelor's, you'll have a lot more opportunities, you'll be able to do this, that, and the third. I finished my degree, started applying to a lot of places, and honestly, wasn't getting much bite. Now, it's not like I don't have work experience, so I'm just like new to the workforce. I've been working since I was like 18, so I have work experience, but I was barely getting interviews, and then the interviews that I was getting, I didn't get past the first one. So, I'm very critical of myself and try to work hard on bettering myself. So, I don't just assume that I'm just doing great on all my interviews. I work on the skills I have for interviews, and I work on how I can approach these interviews to do better. But it just wasn't happening. Now, with that being said, it just so happens that where I was working, due to me now finishing my degree, I was now eligible to move up and be promoted within the company. So while I was applying to all these places, I also, applied to promote at the company I'm in. And lo and behold, get an opportunity for an interview. The interview, he seemed he was very nonchalant. Seemed like he was just going through the motions and wasn't really taking it seriously. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna do my best anyway. Did my best, entered the interview, went home. Didn't really feel like it went great just because of his response during the interview and how he was acting. And then a day or two later, I got a call from a manager, and they told me, yo, I heard that you applied for such and such position and you interviewed for it, and you didn't get the job there, but we heard about you from that interview, and we would like for you to interview for this position here. So I was like, okay, well, yeah, I'm definitely down to do that. Let's do it. So, that interview, I did well in the interview, but I didn't get the job. But it led me to being interviewed for the same position at a different location. So my performance was still well. It's just that it didn't go where I thought it was going to go. It led me somewhere else. And, I interviewed for that position, and, it was a typical interview. The good thing about being in a position to where you're working somewhere and you're always by yourself and you always got to handle things on your own and you got to figure things out is whenever they ask you questions about leadership and what you do in certain situations, you have experience to go off of because you've been through it already, because you've been put through the fire, so to speak, by being alone and having to handle things. So during that interview, I was pretty good in answering all questions because I had a situation for every question that they asked. I finished the interview, and then a couple days later they called me and they said they were going to offer me the position. So, that's how I got to where I am now, being an assistant store manager. Now, this episode is more so about graduate school now, right? So in graduate school, you're going for your MBA and you want to go to a nice school. So I'm going to a good school, and even with that MBA, it's not there's not much bite. You apply for positions and you either don't get a response or you do get a response and you might get that first interview, but when you get that interview, they're a lot more I don't want to say combative, but they're a lot more resistant to you being in the company. I haven't figured out why exactly. I think one of the reasons is these companies that you go to, if you have someone that's a lifer who's been there for like 5-6 years since they graduated, and you're going to graduate school and you're just applying, and you're applying for a position that's literally the same as them or just below them, and you haven't put in the time, I feel there's I don't know if it's a disconnect or if there's some kind of situation to where they're not necessarily welcoming to you because you haven't been through what they've been through to get to the position that they're at. So I've been through that a lot. I've been through that with one of the jobs I was applying for, and it was a decent job. It was like $90K. It required moving to New York, but the interview process in which the HR was fine, but the interview process with the supervisors and the managers, it wasn't fine. They were gatekeeping the position, trying to disqualify me early, and then once I got in, during the interview, they weren't they were very, how can I put this? And not just not welcoming, but they seemed like they didn't want to do it, and like they were just irritated they had to do it in the first place. So that interview went left and it didn't go well. And of course I didn't get the position. But with that being said, it's like, even when you're going for MBA, I think even if I got my MBA right now and I was applying for jobs, they say it's a big job market and you can do a lot with a graduate degree. But just looking at from people seeing that I'm going to graduate school, even when I'm applying for these jobs, not even just like high paying jobs, like just entry level, they're still looking past it. They're still not going for it, even though I'm in graduate school. So it's like, what exactly do you have to do to even just get entry level to wherever you want to go, when they're not even accept you when they see that you have good credentials? That's why I do believe that me being an introvert is kind of a downfall, because it leads you to not being as social. So your network isn't as big, your network isn't as large, so you can't use that network to get you to places that you like to go. With that being said, I still feel that graduate degrees are important, because there's a certain level you can't reach without a graduate degree. So you need those graduate degrees, and they need to be in certain schools, depending on where you're aiming. So I feel, even though you're going for the MBA, or whether you have your MBA now and say you're broke now, maybe it's a situation where you need to change your horizons and not look at where you're at. Maybe you need to move somewhere. Maybe you need to change locations. Maybe you need to go to where your skills are high priority. If your skills aren't high priority in Texas, maybe they'll be a high priority in California or in New York. Who knows? Either way, you gotta make it work for you. So for me, I know once I finish it, I'll see where I'll be headed, see if I'll stay. I don't know exactly how it's gonna go, but the main goal now is just to complete the coursework, try to get this degree, and then see where to go from there. But don't be afraid to go to graduate school. Don't be afraid of the challenges. Keep going, keep trying. Even if you still have a lot of misses, there's going to be one that's bound to hit at some point. You just don't want to burn yourself out going for all these things. So, pace yourself and keep going.